Why I prefer outdoor basketball courts. I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
You probably go in the tame. You go in the sunny, no wonder I got the rains. If there's no one any, you probably in my lane. Better get the moving, the energy here insane. Where the life is going, a prodigy in the game. Guess I gotta show him who's the king. I'm on top.
So for those of you new to the channel, I am an outdoor street basketball player. I don't play much indoor basketball. I've played hundreds of hours indoor basketball in my life, in my career, but that was when I was a teenager. For well over, I would say 90% of my career has been playing outdoor street basketball. However, I live in Michigan, so that means about 5 months out of the year is winter. It forces me indoors. So spring, summer, fall, I am out here as much as I can, playing as much and as often as I possibly can. But in the winter, it forces me indoors. And so during the winter, I willingly take a break from playing basketball to give my joints, my knees, my hips a break from the wear and tear of being outdoors playing on a concrete basketball court. I use that time to stay in shape, to strengthen my body, and to keep studying the game. But for that 4 to 5 months, I'm not actually actively playing basketball. Right now, it's April of 2022, and this past winter is the first winter in 20 plus years where I paid for a membership to a local gym so that I could stay playing basketball throughout the wintertime. So I thought today I would compare playing indoors to playing outdoors and why I very much prefer playing outdoor basketball. So first of all, let's start out with the positive things about playing indoors, the stuff that I like. Most of it has to do with the fact that you're paying money so that you can play in an indoor facility. Money's going towards that facility being maintained and cleaned. So that usually means in terms of the condition of the court and the equipment, it's usually fairly professional. So for instance, the court itself, when you're paying to play indoors, you get a hardwood court. Hardwood is the optimal surface to play basketball on. On that hardwood, you get professional lines that are painted and maintained year-round. And then in terms of the baskets, the backboards, the stanchions, it's all maintained, it's all professional. The glass backboards are actual glass themselves, so they're nice and solid, nice and tight. As opposed to the conditions of park basketball courts, you can get a myriad of different possibilities and conditions when it comes to the quality of the court. This is maybe the first or second time in my entire lifetime that this court has ever been revitalized. Even with that, there's already cracks in the cement. There's already wear and tear on the court. And my least favorite thing about this court is that those backboards are terrible. They're plexiglass. You can't bank the ball off of those backboards properly because they're loose and they're not tight, they're not solid. You don't get a proper bank shot off of these backboards. Not only that, but I would say probably the vast majority of outdoor park basketball courts are usually run down, right? They usually have terrible cement blacktop, like there's wear and tear on the court itself, there's cracks and all that kind of stuff. It's wore out. The lines on the court are usually worn out, if there's lines at all. You usually have steel stanchions for the baskets, and usually the backboards themselves are like kind of steel backboards. Everything about them is run down, and a lot of times there's no nets on the rims. But when you pay to play indoors, you get maintenance of the court itself, so it's always professional. Second of all, because you're paying to play there and people are usually responsible in terms of using what they pay for, that means that because you're paying to play there, there's usually people there to play against. There's usually opportunity for competition, as opposed to, a random park in your neighborhood or city. There's a myriad of, dependencies of whether or not people are going to be out here. Some courts in some cities are always packed with players because they're in neighborhoods where it's basketball dense, and then there's, cities and parks like this one where it really depends on the time of year and time of day. But when you pay to play at a indoor facility, people want to get their money's worth, and so there's usually competition there to play against. One thing that I enjoyed about my gym was that it was very enclosed, meaning the size of the court was pretty much, it was a full court basketball court, right? Except for there were 6 baskets on the court. So there was the one at the end, there's one over here, there's one over here, and then there's 3 over here. So there's 6 basketball rims in total. The part I like about that is when you have rebounds or air balls, now you don't have to chase the ball as much, because pretty much right on the edge of the court, it was surrounded by walls or that divider in the middle of the court. So if there's a long rebound or an air ball, it'll just bounce off the wall and come back to you, as opposed to out here at the court, if you have a super long rebound, you can chase that ball for 30 feet, you know, possibly every shot that you take. It's much more convenient to not have to chase every rebound down all the time. So now let's talk about the things I don't enjoy about playing indoors and why I actually prefer playing outdoors. So there pretty much are only 2 factors that come into play as why I don't really like playing indoors, at least at that particular gym. First, like I said, because people pay to play there, there's always competition available. That means also that the gym is almost always occupied. Now this place, the gymnasium, is not dedicated only to basketball. There's a multitude of like fitness classes that take place during and throughout the day in that gymnasium. It's not only for basketball. There are only certain blocks of time throughout the day where you have an open gym. That means that you can go in there and it's kind of dedicated to playing basketball. So when you have those small windows of open gym time, that gym gets flooded with players, and not always, but most of the time, the gym is packed. In my particular gym's case, it seemed that the way the percentages broke down was like about 25% of the players in that gym were real hardcore, competitive, serious basketball players who were in their teens or 20s. And these guys were serious competitors who played hard and were good basketball players. But in my very particular specific case, I'm retired. I'm not an active competitive player anymore. My body is done, it's shot. I ran it into the ground. I don't have any business trying to compete with real serious basketball players in the prime of their careers. I just can't keep up with them. I would be a burden to them. The other 75% of players at this gym are usually kids. They come there to use the gym, the gymnasium, the basketballs after school. And they're just kids, they're just having fun, they're just messing around, but they're also occupying most of the rest of the basketball courts. And for me in particular, that means now it's very difficult for me to try to put in any real work, because while I'm not actually actively competing against the prime of their career basketball players, I'm still trying to keep whatever skills and abilities I still have. I'm still trying to keep them sharp and try to improve upon what I have left in terms of my own game. Also, in terms of the court being packed, I am fortunate enough to live in a place where on certain days, certain times of the year, certain times of day, the courts are packed with competition. But then at other times of the day, the courts are pretty much empty. That's what I like, that's what I prefer. I like having that option. So while there's always competition, that means the court is almost always packed as well. I like having the option of sometimes there's competition. I'll show up if I want that. But other times, if I want to get work in by myself on an empty court, I can do that as well outdoors. Indoors, I can't do that. I don't really have that option. The deal breaker for me is, while this facility itself is not that old, because it's constantly being used, the gymnasium itself is constantly being used, whether it's for fitness classes or open gym time, there's constant use of this gym every day. There's always something going on in that gymnasium. It's not that bad. It definitely could be worse, but in the 10 or so years that that facility has been opened, the hardwood floor itself just is worn down, which in itself makes that floor slippery just from the fact that it has so much use on it day after day, year after year. But then also because that gym is used all day, every day by different people doing different stuff all day long, that floor, the hardwood floor, is constantly dusty. And when you have a worn out hardwood floor that is constantly dusty, that means it's slippery, constantly slippery, which essentially makes that floor unusable in terms of basketball, because you can't really sprint efficiently and effectively on that floor. You can't go from standing still to sprinting as hard as you can, because you will slip, you will slide, you will fall, you're probably gonna hurt yourself. You can probably get up to top speed in terms of running if you do it slowly, but you have 95 feet to do that. How slow can you run within that 95 feet of distance? And then, you know, most of the time you're not playing full court. You only have 40 feet or so or less to try to get up to top speed. You can't do that running slowly. You have to be able to sprint, but on a dusty, slippery hardwood floor, you can't do it. What's even worse and more dangerous is the fact that you can't stop on a dime the way you need to in basketball to play not only effectively, but safely. You need to be able to stop. You need to be able to change direction on a dime in order to play effectively and to keep yourself safe. In comparison to outdoor courts, right? Whatever the material may be, pavement, blacktop, concrete, whatever it is, even if there's dirt on the court here and there, it's fine, it doesn't matter. As long as the court's not covered in sand for whatever reason, you're gonna be able to sprint, stop, and change direction as hard as you want every time. Even when the court is wet. The court right now, it just rained this morning. The court is still a little wet, but I could still run, stop, change direction as hard as I want. I would have to be a little bit careful on the puddles in the areas that the puddles are in, but for the vast majority of the court, I can still run, stop, and change direction as hard as I want every time, even if the court is wet. If a hardwood floor gets wet, it's pretty much ice. And then if a hardwood floor is worn out and always dusty, it's almost ice. At least out here at the park, even if it's wet, as long as it's not like icy and snowy, you can still come out here and play, even if the court is completely wet. It's not ideal to do so. It kind of sucks when the court is wet, but you can still do it, and you don't have to worry as much about slipping and falling on a wet concrete floor as you would have to do on a dusty hardwood floor. If I had to choose between a wet outdoor court or a dusty hardwood floor, I would choose the wet outdoor court all day. In my experience, you get more traction on a wet outdoor court than a dusty hardwood court every time. Those are the only two real downsides I see to playing indoors, but for me, it makes the choice of indoor or outdoor pretty easy. I definitely prefer playing outdoors. And that is why I prefer outdoor basketball courts. I hate the winter, I hate cold weather, I hate being forced indoors for 5 months during the winter, but I do my best to make the best use of that time while I'm forced indoors. And it gives my body a chance to rest and recover from having the wear and tear of running and jumping on hard concrete, pavement, blacktop surfaces the other 7 months of the year. I would rather take that 5 months off and work on making my body stronger and studying the game and giving my joints a rest than trying to constantly play basketball throughout the year, trying to put up with courts that are packed and hardwood floors that are slippery. So let me know down in the comments what you prefer. Do you prefer playing indoors, paying for that, having that professional facility, or do you prefer playing out here, outdoors, in the elements, in nature like I do? Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Do it now. That's the best thing you can do to support me and this channel. This channel is small and it's obscure, and I expect that, but I would also like as much support as I can get. So if you like these videos, if you like what this channel talks about, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Also, like, share, hit that notification button so you're notified whenever any new video comes out on this channel. And until next time, I'll see you guys next week.
You can see the passion is flowing out through the veins. You can see the vision that's putting them in a maze. I go in a business, you probably go in the tank. No, I got the reins.